All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another installment of Deck Tech Tuesday. I'm very excited to share this one today. This is a spicy one. This list is coming to you from a recent regional victory from Arcalo. Arcalo was the pilot of this deck. I reached out to them and said, you know, your deck was really sweet. I want to check it out. As we get started here, I was also asked to give a shout out to Jacob Caldwell and Nibster. These three together kind of tweaked the ratios, tested with each other, worked on the deck. So big shout outs to these people for coming up with such a cool deck. What's the cool deck, you may ask? It is Water Potions Lorraine. And you might be like, what does Water Potions Lorraine mean? Well, I think the only way to explain it is to get right into it. So I'm going to start with the material deck. We are a Spirit, we are a Looking Glass deck. First, pregame actions. Don't forget your pregame actions. We are a Spirit of Water deck, though. And we do run the Lorraine lineage. We do go all the way to level 3. Lorraine level 1 and 2, of course. And then the level 3 is Lorraine Crux Knight. Crux Knight says she gets +1 attack on her attacks for each banished weapon regalia that you have. Not banished sword regalia, notably. Banished weapon regalia. So that is your champion lineage. I did mention we are a Looking Glass deck. We're not using Looking Glass for Unmake Duality in this list. We are using Looking Glass. Call it for, I don't know, maybe its intended purpose. Well, definitely its intended purpose, right? We are playing distortion cards. We are playing Inert Sword and Sword of Shadows, depending on the board state and the like. You know, Inert Sword, very strong 2/2 sword you can bring out. Sword of Shadows, kind of the backup option, but also there for later in the game. Having both of these out makes a certain other card, Cheshire Cat, as you may know, makes her very strong. So we're running both of those distortion swords. We're also running Clarent Reimagined and Clarent Sword of Peace. Classic Crux Knight Regalia kind of duo. Reimagined, usually by banishing, you have to banish the Sword of Peace, but you'll usually be banishing one of these other two swords because these are all of our swords in the list. We're only running 1, 2, 3, and I guess 4 if you count the Reimagined swords. So it's not often you'll get both of your distortion swords out, but also worth noting you can play Reimagined just by banishing Clarent Sword of Peace and using a floating memory or using a card from your memory. So if you want both swords over the course of the game, both other swords I should say, you don't need to banish 2 to reimagine. But you know, if you've played against this deck or you've seen the strategy before, you know that using Reimagine to banish 2 swords to give Crux Knight +2 attack on all of her attacks is very strong. So we are using that synergy in this deck pretty heavily. We have Backup Charger. Just a generic draw regalia. We are in water. We can fracturize the power cell. So the best non-divine relic draw regalia that we can add on top of this. And then 2 spicy pieces. And you may see that this is Water Crux. You may remember there's a couple ways that Water Crux has been played in the past. One of which is using these 2 cards. One of the sweetest cards in the game, Majestic Spirit's Crest. I told you we had a spicy one today. And Eventide Spear. I love this card. This is a polearm. I'll go backwards. This is a polearm that says if your opponent has 2 rested units, that includes their champion, you can activate this card from the material deck, and it is a 0-cost polearm. So you can play this from the material deck for free if your opponent has 2 rested units. Now, that's not once per turn, and we are Crux, so we have cards like Ghost of Pendragon as being the obvious one that return this to the material deck for a benefit. And then if your opponent still has 2 rested units, which is likely because you haven't messed with their board, you can bring it back out, do it again, do it again, do it again. It's a very strong piece of I guess utility in the deck. And then when you're done with it, you can swing with it and get it banished. It is a weapon, and Crux Knight does mention weapons, not just swords. Notably, you can't banish it for Reimagined. You wouldn't want to anyways, but you can't. And then Majestic Spirit's Crest says, banish this. For the rest of the turn your champion has, on attack, draw a card. So in the worst case scenario, you can just kind of, you know, bougie GCR with it. You can swing once, draw a card. But as you'll see in this deck, we have ways to swing multiple times in one turn using this package. And I don't know. It's just so sweet. So this is the material deck. A lot of it, you know, when you're a Lorraine deck, a lot of your material deck is kind of locked down by the swords and the like. So probably nothing too surprising there, but definitely some heat with these two pieces. Onto the main deck. I am going to keep these two aside just because we will be talking about them quite a bit. Onto the main deck. We are a level 3 deck, so unsurprisingly, we are on 4 Dungeon Guide. We're on 4 Dungeon Guide. Getting to level 3 through her. Obviously, the main way to do it. We are a water deck. We don't have a whole lot of trickery to level up with, so the value that Dungeon Guide provides is super worth it. For Cheshire Cat, I mentioned her in the Regalia section, or in the material deck section. Oh yeah, this is not a budget deck. If you want to try this, you may need to proxy. This is not a budget deck by any means, so just something to keep in mind there. For Cheshire Cat, very, very strong. Stealth and Spell Shroud, very hard to remove. Gets bonus attack for each distortion weapon you have, meaning you can have up to +3 bonus attack, 2 from the Inert Sword and 1 from the Sword of Shadows, meaning she can be swinging for 4 every turn if you have both of those swords out. Very, very strong. Some generic water staples, so 4 Fracturize. Unsurprising, right? One of the best utility cards that water has to offer. You can Fracturize your opponent's Regalia, they're your opponent's items. You can also Fracturize your own Power Cell to get reserve advantage and get a reservable through the course of the game, among a couple other things that you can do with that. And it's Floating Memory. 3 Cerulean Decree, one of the best counter spells, I would say, in the game. You can imbue it with we play a bunch of water in this deck, so imbuing it is very doable. Imbue it to either reduce a unit's attack or draw a card in your memory, or counter target card activation unless target non-attack card activation unless its controller pays 2. Goes hand in hand with some of our other pieces of interaction, notably Acquiescing Rejection. It's our other, call it, counter spell that's in the deck. This one gives your opponent the option of either letting you draw 2 cards or countering the card activation. It does cost 4, which is a little pricey, but certainly worth it, and in conjunction with Cerulean Decree can make it nigh impossible for your opponent's important cards to resolve. 3 Spalling Cleanse. Generic Float in this deck. It's just a heal 3 with generic Float, probably the next best one after Fracturize, for a generic Float that is also water. So we're on 3 of that. And then 4 Frosthorn Paladin, one of the best allies in the game. Use some of that floating memory, get some of that protection, fight for board in conjunction with Cheshire Cat. You can play a really strong board game with this deck if you want. So that's kind of the thought. You know, these are, I would call these all fairly stapley in a water environment. You know, this one isn't in every water deck, but all these other ones you've probably seen many, many times in various water decks or distortion decks or the like. So nothing, I would say, probably too surprising here. This is just our water core. Now we get into the spicy stuff. So this is what caught my eye with this deck, and it is why it is called Potions Lorraine. So we are running, I believe, 7 potions? No, 8. We're running 8 potions. We're running a full suite of potions. We're running 4 Aqua Vitae and 4 Serum of Wisdom. You might not know what these cards do if you are newer to the game or are hanging around top tables in this game. So what these cards do, they're both essentially the same card. So they are Cleric Potions, meaning we get no class bonus. We only get the printed effect on these. They are both sacrifice this card, draw a card. This one draws to hand, and then this one draws to memory. This one costs 2, this one costs 3. This one also lets you glimpse 3 first, which can be relevant. We don't run Fractal of Rain, and we don't run any kind of things that might benefit from the deck manipulation outside of just drawing more quality cards. We can't set up like a mill of a float or anything like that. So it is really just, in essence, both of these are draws that you can set up for later in the game. So Aqua Vitae draws to hand for 2, and then this one glimpses 3 and then draws to memory for 3. That is why they are selected as the potions of choice, because the effect that we really want isn't on the potions, it's on the potion infusions. So we're on 2 potion infusion seal, and 3 Potion Infusion Frostbite. Now, I know you probably don't know what these cards do. I mean, unless you're an Arasana fan. Maybe if you're getting ready for Arasana and Pantheon, you know what these cards do. Potion Infusion Seal, not the first time it's been seen in a deck. Not even in a Krux deck, right? Potion Infusion Seal used to be the generic floating memory that prismatic decks used to trigger the water effect, because it was also a spell, so you could discard it to Retold Fortune, I believe is the name of the card. Discard a spell, draw a card, and then it has floating memory when you're level 2 or higher. So this card has been in deck lists before, but in this deck we're actually using its effect. We are actually infusing the potion and using this as effectively a Frostbind. And then the big one is Frostbite. Forgive me if I'm stepping over my own words here. Frostbind, Frostbite, Infusion, kind of tongue twistery. But Potion Infusion Frostbite says you infuse the potion, so you rest it and you give it this effect for the turn. So when the potion gets sacrificed, you rest any unit, and the next time that unit would take damage this turn from a water source, it takes an additional 4 damage. So what does that mean? I guess let me also mention neither of these potions tap to use their ability or rest to use their ability. So you can infuse them, use their own sacrifice effect to draw the card or draw the card into memory, and then also get the on-sacrifice effect from whatever you infused it with. And when you infuse it with Frostbite, which is kind of the main, I guess, spice of the deck, the main combo of the deck, you're doing a lot of things here. One, you're resting their unit, which is probably their champion, because you want to deal that extra 4 damage to their champion. Because you're resting a unit of theirs, it's more likely that you'll be able to start playing your Eventide Spirits for free. Also, because they're getting rested, there's some other synergies in the deck that have to do with your opponent being rested, so you get those synergies online as well. And they take an extra 4 damage from a water source. You are a water source. You are a Spirit of Water, so you are a water source. So they will take an extra 4 damage from your next attack this turn. It's also fast speed, so there are other interactions you can do, such as have your potion out against, say, Diana, Water Diana, who focuses on attacking to do a lot of her damage. You can potion infuse Frostbite, because this is fast speed, and rest her in her recollection, or rest her when she goes to load her Aether Wing, and make sure that she can't attack you that turn, and then she'll stay rested through your turn, so you'll still have the rest synergies of all your other cards in the deck. It's so cool. I thought for sure this was a prismatic deck, because I saw Potion Infusion Seal. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, and then I was like, wait, there's Potion Infusion Frostbite too. Wait, there's potions in this deck. So this is why it is Potion Seller Lorraine. It is these synergy cards that now go into what I'll show as the rest of the deck. So I mentioned we had resting synergies. Let me show you what those are right now. The big one, well, one of the big ones. The big one is Eventide Spear, but one of the big ones in the main deck is 4 copies of this card is so sweet, Inundating Clash. 2 cost, 1 damage attack with floating memory, but if you are attacking a rested unit, it gets +3. So this becomes a 2 cost, 4 damage attack with floating memory, and if they got frostbitten, they're taking 8 damage base, plus your weapon, plus any other effects you might have. If you're Crux Knight, they're probably taking like 15 damage from what you're doing with this attack, which is just so sweet, right? And you can use it to level up. You can use it to float up into Clarent Reimagined if you don't want to spend your distortion swords. There's a lot of cool stuff to like, and I just think the art on this card is so cool. I think it's so cool that it's running this. We're also running Freezing Hail. 2 copies in the main, a couple more in the side. Freezing Hail, deal 2 damage to target unit. It does not wake up during its opponent's next wake up step. So you can keep them rested. A lot of times people will see Water Lorraine, or will see, this kind of Water Crux, Eventide Spear looping strategy, and just not rest their units. And as a result, you need to find a way to rest them yourselves. One card I've used in strategies like this in the past was Halocline Scout, but I think the potion strategy is a much more potent version of that strategy, and I mean, it's just way cooler too, right? So 2 copies of Freezing Hail keeps them rested. Also, it is a water source, so it will deal 6 if you frostbite them. So that's, I mean, that's not 0, right? Like, that's a lot of damage that you could maybe close the game out with that. One main deck top copy of Tidal Sweep. It is an attack, pretty good with Crux Knight or even Blade Master. It's a little weak, right? It's a 1 base, but if you're, you know, going your standard line, you probably have, you know, Lorraine Blade Master plus an Inert Sword with your Looking Glass. Hello? It's here somewhere. It's going to be literally the last card I look at. Plus your Inert Sword, right? So you pay 6. You're sweeping for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty good. You can draw cards. It's, you know, it's only 1 in the main because it's pretty expensive, and it's only really good against decks that are going to go wide or are going to have like maybe some stealthy allies that are harder to deal with. But I think it's worth running. I kind of like it, and it does have floating memory as well, so it's something that comes up, but we're not using it a ton. And another thing that it synergizes with, so I talked about the potion package in this deck. The Tidal Sweep also synergizes with kind of what's in the rest of this deck, and it's more sweet cards. Warning. So we have the Sheath of Faceted Lapis, Warrior Weapon Link, so you have to put it on a warrior weapon, which all of our weapons are warrior weapons. Actually, I'm lying. This is a guardian weapon. You can't put it on Inner Sword. All right, this is good because I would have maybe cheated at locals if I had not brought that up. This is Warrior Weapon Link. You have to link it to a warrior weapon, which can be Clarent Reimagined, Sword of Shadows, Eventide Spear also counts. The one you're going to be putting this on is Clarent Reimagined. And the reason is it can gain Spell Shroud. So this sword is a lot harder to remove. It also costs 2, so not a lot targets it anyways. But if you have this with the Sheath of Faceted Lapis on it, it has the ability to remove durability counters from itself in order to protect itself if they try to go for it and get the effective 2-for-1 on you. This does have on enter draw a card at all levels, and then it also has, if you are level 2 or higher, linked weapon gets +2. So a little bit more synergy with your Tidal Sweep, a little bit more synergy with your Eventide Spear Wake Up strategy that'll show kind of at the end of the deck. And just a generally really cool card. We got 3 copies of it, and then that goes hand in hand with 4 copies of Guarded Disposition. If you bought the Lunar New Year's Lorraine box and you're not sure what to do with your Guarded Dispositions, fret not, you can run them in this deck. I don't know if these 2 are the best choice, but I definitely think that this is a lot of fun. I definitely think this is some spicy strategy, and I mean, getting somebody with a, what would this be, a 3 attack Clarent Reimagined, and then using Guarded Disposition to prevent 3 damage and draw a card seems pretty good. Again, not crazy. Definitely something that you could maybe try to just put a couple more counters or staples in the deck for, but I really like it. I'm going to continue to run it, and I'm running the deck as it was, and this won the regional, so, you know, there's definitely something to running these cards. I'm not going to ramble too much on it, but maybe not as straightforward as some of the rest of the deck, but this is pretty good synergy with Tidal Sweep, good synergy with Crux Knight, and also the Crux cards that let us attack multiple times. And then this one, I honestly, I haven't asked directly, but I have to believe that this, besides just saving you, right, like this is pretty good actually against Aetherwing Diana, right? You reduce her glimpse by a fairly large amount and also draw a card. I think that's pretty good, and of course versus aggro it's good, but also to protect something like Cheshire Cat, because there aren't too many damage sources that hit Cheshire Cat, and this is a skill, so this can target Cheshire Cat, and if they use something like Flame Wreath Call, or they use something like Smokeout. Actually, I bet this is for Smokeout, because this is a base 2 if you have Inert Sword. Sorry, I'm like live discovering why this might be even better than it seems. But if they try to smoke out your Cheshire Cat, which is going to do 4 damage to it, and you have your Inert Sword out, this prevents 2 of that, and you draw a card, and you blow out their Smokeout. Whew, that's GG. So it's very likely that this is a big reason why this card's in the deck. I went on a long tangent there. It could just as well be, hey, I bought the Lunar New Year box, I wanted to run it, but... but I guess we'll see. So the last 8 cards are just 4 of our 2 Crux cards. Spirit's Blessing. Who doesn't love Spirit's Blessing? As an additional cost, return a Regalia you control to its owner's material deck. We're going to do that with Eventide Spear. You draw a card and wake up your champion. So if you have a buffed up sword with... Oh, I should mention, this doesn't work with Crux Knight's effect. Crux Knight does not give the damage to the weapon. It makes her attacks do that extra damage. So you don't get like a 6, 7, 8 guarded disposition just because you're Crux Knight. It is the attack of the weapon, not the base attack. So it does work with the sheath, but it doesn't work with Crux Knight. This works with Crux Knight though. So you swing in for, you know, you have your Clarent Reimagined, you have 2 or 3 banished swords. So you're plus like 2, plus 4, you're 5 attack on your Clarent, and you swing with like Inundating Clash or something like that. Then you can wake up with Spirit's Blessing by returning Eventide Spear. Swing again for the same amount. You can, if you have another one, if you draw into another one, you can bring back Eventide Spear. You can do it again. So you can deal a lot of damage. And then even if you break your Clarent, or you break your weapon that you were using to multi-attack with, the last time you bring out Eventide Spear, you can just swing with Eventide Spear. It will still get a bonus from Crux Knight. You know, it's got base 1, so it's another like 5 or 6 damage that you can do on the end once all your swords are exhausted. And then, of course, what is a Crux deck without 4 Ghosts of Pendragon? Same idea, right? You're using Eventide Spear or the Looking Glass later in the game as a Regalia to return to get your draw 2s and get your influence back after you level up. I do think you want to level up pretty quickly in this deck. It's going to be game state dependent, of course. Oh, and I forgot to mention Majestic Spirit's Crest again, right? With Spirit's Blessing, every time you attack, you're drawing an additional card. So you can chain these together pretty easily. And even if you don't defeat your opponent after, you know, 2 or 3 attacks, you are now 10, 11, 12 influence, maybe a Ghost of Pendragon or 2 in play, and you're holding Fracture Eyes, Acquiescing Rejection, Cerulean Decree, Guarded Disposition, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the main game plan of the deck. You got your big sword plan, and you got your potions plan to tap your opponent so that you can Eventide Spears, so that you can use your Crux cards to go crazy. Really, really cool strategy. I've done similar strategies with Lorraine Spirit Ruler and cards like that, and Sword Saint's Vow, but I think this one's way, way cooler. Onto the side deck, just the last little bit. A couple one-ofs for some of the main deck cards. Spalling Cleanse, better for aggro. Freezing Hail, better for opponents attacking decks or decks where we need to keep things rested for longer periods of time. We've got 2 Nascent Blast. We are in water, so there's not a lot of like targeted removal for things like Arthur or for things like Wind Wake Up, right? Nascent Blast can deal with some of the threats that those decks are able to produce while still trying to stay alive, right? So this is just 3 cost, deal 3 damage. It's not, you don't empower, or you don't do anything fancy with it. 2 Frostbind for the decks that are maybe a little bit influence less. You've got Horse Vanitas and stuff like that. For Frostbind's very effective against. You've got decks that are going to be fighting back and forth with you, that you're going to want more counter magic at the top end. So with Acquiescing and Cerulean, you may also want Frostbind on top of that. So 2 copies of that. 2 extra copies of Tidal Sweep. There are some matchups where it's really, really good, right? Anything that's going to go wide, Wind Allies, Tamer, Shenanigans, Slimes, things like that. You probably want more Tidal Sweeps. That kind of speaks for itself. 3 Song of Frost, one of the best cards in the game. Definitely good this meta. Shuts down Shenju's, shuts down Diana, shuts down Wind Wake Up. Just a really, really overall strong card. This is a water deck too, so if you are against something like Arisana or somebody who has a Regalia that's really, really important, you have the option to, you know, swing a unit, hold priority, fracturize their important Regalia, and then when they go to crack it or when they go to get the benefit out of it, you put a Song of Frost on top of your own attack and you stop them from getting that effect. It banishes that effect off the stack. Song of Frost, very versatile card. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about it. I would maybe even run 4, depending on my meta. And then last piece of spice, Snow White, Vice Queen. She is more of the resting synergy, right? If you're level 1 or higher, on enter, she rests the opponent's champion. And then if the opponent's attempts to level up while she is out, and you are level 1 or higher, they do not. The attempted level up just goes back into their material deck. What's that really good with? Potion Infusion Frostbite. If we go back to the potions and we let me just pull out the Frostbite just so it's on the table. If you have an Awake Potion and a Frostbite in hand, Frostbite only costing 1, by the way, you can play Snow White. It'll rest their champion. So on their materialize phase, unless they have something to kill Snow White, like a Stifling Trap or the like, or a Smoke Out or something like that, if they have something to kill Snow White, they can go for it. If they don't, they do not have the option to level up, because they would try to materialize and it would go back to the material deck because they are rested. They will then wake up on the next turn cycle. If you manage to keep Snow White alive, you go back to their turn. They'll attempt to materialize their champion again, right? And in response to their champion materialization, you can infuse your potion with Frostbite, sacrifice it, and draw a card and rest their champion again. So their level up will fizzle. Very, very strong against certain strategies. Seiryu, other level 3 decks, CL, other Lorraines, Merlins, Xanders, right? Like, there's not a lot of answer to Snow White in a lot of these decks, especially because she rests them, right? So if she rests them and they're an attacking deck like Lorraine or CL, there's not a lot of options to get her until they're level 3. So pretty strong in that way as well. Yeah. Very excited to play this deck in the locals long play this week. Let me know what you think, if you think it's cool. Again, not my deck. Big shout outs to the creators again. Arcalo, Jacob Caldwell, and Nibster. Big shout outs to y'all. I'm a fan. I need more decks like this in the game. This is the stuff I live for. This is the stuff I look for in Deck Tech Tuesday, and then the subsequent locals long play. So if you are into decks that look like maybe they're a little off the wall, but then go on and win a regional, let me know below. Do be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I talk about at least one deck every week and then have some gameplay on it. So if you like what you see, drop that follow. In the meantime, though, look out for the next video. Be good to one another. Play Grand Archive, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.